Tonight should be a really fun night, especially for Master Gardeners, because we'll be talking about our very own demonstration garden. Gail Kelly and Jim Williams are going to share some updates of what's been happening in the gardens. If you haven't been out there in a while, they look a lot different. And we've still been gardening even through COVID. So things are changing out there. Things are finally greening up out there, which is a nice thing, right, Gail? After that freeze, things were not looking too good for a little bit, but it's starting to come back. So I will turn it over to Gail.
Well, I'm going to talk to you about the condition of the herb garden. And first, I'm going to give you just, here's the overview or the agenda, how we got where we are, where we're going, and what we need. In 2018, this is the picture of the herb garden, and it was a Texas A&M study that was being done, and the herbies planted 3 specific plants: rosemary, thyme, and oregano, and 7 varieties of each. Now, it looks pretty good right there, but you'll notice the earth is just getting flatter. There's no rows or anything after a while. So here's the next one. It's a side view of it in 2019. And you'll see that mostly the rosemaries are growing. There's a few other things, but we know for sure from the study that rosemaries grow well in South Texas. Here's a field of whole bunch of rosemaries. And then, this is towards the end of January, or this is the beginning of January in 2019, and you can see how it's just really looking pretty down and out. So we decided that we wanted to redesign the herb garden. Now, this is the design I came up with. Everybody agreed upon it. I'm not an artist, but it falls into this. It fits this, and you'll see as we move on. I hope I'm not going too fast. There are 13 gardens. There's the tea garden, and the Latin or Mexican garden. This one we have finally named, and it's sort of the sensory garden where you can touch and smell things. And then the medicinal garden. Over here is citrus. It's any plant that has a citrusy smell. And the sage garden, several different types. The lavender garden, butterfly garden, thyme, oregano, and then the parsley, chives, cold weather, and then we have one back this way, that's the variety garden. And the owners, so to speak, of these gardens are, oregano is Sandra Robertson and Terry Berman, basil is Jane LeCompte, and cool weather is Amy Fenton, thyme is unclaimed, keep that in mind. Butterflies is Martha Berdor and Marcy Eccles. Citrus is Teresa Robinson. Sage is Carol Buckner. Lavender is Julie Roca Forte. And medicinal is Rodica Belija. Edible flowers are Phyllis Cam and Mandy Richardson. I'm the Mexican Asian garden, the owner, I guess you might say. And then there's the unclaimed tea garden and the variety garden. So we got to work on it. Time to redesign. You can see the pathways that are being built, and you can see the workers. And then we're relocating the rosemary, the beloved rosemaries, because some of the herbies have been there a lot longer than I have, and they just really were in love with all the plants that were growing there. So it was really kind of hard to move them, I could see the pain in their eyes. I didn't suffer it like they did, but I could see the pain in some of their eyes. And this, we got it pretty well cleared. And this, what you're looking at back there where the brick is, I forgot this word. This is the beginning of the lavender, and this is the beginning of the Mexican garden. And this picture was taken in March of 2019. The nopalito I planted, you see that tiny little cactus pad right there? Well, you're going to see another picture of that after a minute. And in May of 2019, that was 2 months. That's pretty green, grew pretty fast. There's some areas that still needed some work, but it was really shaping up. Oh, let me go back. I want to point out, here's the one and only lavender that survived. You'll see another picture of that too. Can you hear? And this photo was taken in May of 2019. Rosemary, that was right. He corrected me. It was rosemary, not lavender. Okay, that's anytime, Jim. Okay. All right, so this is the garden in May of 2019. It's looking good there too. It's starting to really fall into place. And this again is May of 2019. So that's where we've been, and this is what happened to us at the freeze. This was the tea garden in October of 2020. And this was the tea garden in February of 2021. As you can see, everything really did die. Here is the Mexican garden. There's that little nopalito that grew up. And this is it after the freeze. Just really just turned into mush. And then here's our beautiful rosemary, the last one. And it was just when it was alive, it just had lots and lots of pollinators flying around it all spring and all summer long. And it was just so much fun to watch, but not anymore. Amy Fenton pulled that out all by herself. So I really appreciate that. I could never have done that. And then this is the a photo of the garden in March of 2020, and this is sort of the same area, but you can tell how brown it is. The only thing really surviving are the weeds, you can see right in there. Here's another photo, October. See how full it is and beautiful? And then February, same area. There was a beautiful tree right here, a eucalyptus tree, and it was really neat looking. We lost that. And this is the the trellis. And that was last October, and then the freeze came, and there it is now, just bare. So what do we need? We need new herb garden members. We have available gardens to adopt and to manage, whichever you prefer. And it's really a lot of fun. You'll learn a lot. I want to encourage you to join us. We're there to help you learn, and very rewarding. You feel accomplished when you look at your garden. It's really a good feeling. Need someone to help us make inexpensive signs for each garden, one for the garden as a whole. We can make those out of lumber, or if anybody has any other ideas, we'll see what we can do about that. And then that's all for the big event, which is Saturday, May 22nd, which is the fourth Saturday of the month, is the herb garden, hands-on in the garden. We could use help setting up and possible tour of the garden that day, but we want you to come join us before that. As a matter of fact, we'd like for you to join us this Friday. We're having an herb garden day, and we're welcoming the newcomers, and we'll be mulching, trimming, planting, and of course, weeding. And it's from 8:30 to 11:30, but you don't have to be there at 8:30 if you're not a real early morning person. Just come when you can. So any questions, or what questions do you have? Did I go too fast? No. Hello? No questions?
Gail?
Yes.
This is Laura, and I was wondering what things are coming back right now. What are your little gangbuster plants so far?
Oh, well, it depends upon which garden you're looking at, but the thyme garden looks wonderful. It really does. Everything is pretty much blossomed. And the lavender garden looks really great. Nothing really ever destroyed it. I mean, it just kept blooming. Let me think. The medicinal is coming up, and so are some of the things in the herb garden. So you certainly can see signs of life, and it's going to be in good shape, I think, by May, but we just, need to get some things done on the newcomers work day, welcome day. So any other questions? Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
Gail, I have a question for you. This is Jody Knight.
Hi, Jody.
Hi. I'm curious if there were some surprises in the garden of things that maybe died that you weren't expecting to, or those things that survived that maybe you were surprised that they survived.
Yeah, I think we did have some surprises. I tell you, I was really surprised that the cactus died like it did. I just didn't think that that would happen. So that was really a big surprise. The lavender was a big surprise that it survived so well. I mean, I think maybe one or two need to be replaced, but that's just really not bad. And then the tree, the eucalyptus tree, just, just stopped growing and all the leaves fell off. And the wind probably damaged it before that. So we had to cut that one down. Let me see. Oh, which doesn't really surprise me because I don't know much about the plant. The comfrey plant, is that how you pronounce it? It's just going like gangbusters right now. So you can come and get some cuttings if you need them. And yeah, that's about it. Anything, the cilantro, that surprised me. It died. And I'm having a difficult time getting it to grow. So I don't know what's going on with that. Is that good, Jody? Does that answer your question?
Yes, it sure does. Thank you. I was surprised in my own garden by the rosemary dying back the way it did. And then
Yeah,
my
the rosemary, you're right.
Yeah,
That
the
was a real
rosemary.
shame.
I did have a Brussels sprouts plant that just weathered right through. My beets have popped back up. And then my roses have never looked better, as well as my blackberry plants. So lots of surprises for me.
Yeah, we've had a few things surprise us that they came back much healthier, you know. So,
Yeah.
any other
Thank you.
questions?
Yes, Gail, which
Yes.
lavender did the best with the freeze?
Well, I can't answer that question. I think Julie could, though. Did we have back talk on that one? I don't think I can answer that question. I think Julie, who tends that garden, would be the one to answer that question. And come see us on Friday. I have a feeling she'll be there, and maybe you can ask her.
Okay, I'll check in with her. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I think Julie's online if
Is she?
she's willing to hop on and answer.
Yes, if you can hear me, I think we were
Yes.
real happy with the phenomenal. And a couple of others are sort of nursing along. Once they were pruned a bit, we're still waiting to see if they have some vigor. But there might be, Gail, there's probably two that we're going to replace. And so
Yes.
we've started replanting a couple and watching them closely. I have to be careful because they've gotten very, very wet with some rain and I guess probably the melting ice, but the irrigation system was very vigorous, and so I have to cut back on that. But they're coming.
Yeah. We have had problems with our irrigation system, but we're so glad to have one because in the summer of 2019, I was out there watering those plants by hand, and I didn't enjoy that very much at all. So I'm glad we don't have to do that anymore. So are there any other questions?
Gail,
Yes.
this is John Clifford. What rosemaries survived? Or
The big one? I'm sorry, I don't know the name of that one. Anybody out there know? Jane, are you out there? Jane LeComte? No, she would probably know, but I don't know.
Just the one?
That one. It's that one big one.
Yeah.
Yes.
John,
I was interested about the cilantro too, because the Serving Center garden in Round Rock has had cilantro coming on very well after the storm.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll
John,
keep
were you
looking.
asking about the results of the rosemary trial or just from the freeze?
Yeah, he just wanted to know the
Just
name of
from
the
the
one that
freeze.
survived.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, is there any other questions? Because I have one more thing I'd like to discuss. This is sort of a surprise, you might say. If you looked at the items that were scrolling across the screen when you got here, there's a new program for recognition. And I was tapped to recognize, well, I also asked too, Amy Fenton, wanted, Amy Fenton, Rodica Belija, and Julia Rocaforte. The Williamson County Master Gardener honors each of them. All their hard work in the herb garden, for all their hard work in the herb garden, consistently showing up, dedication to improving the garden, steadily and quietly going about their work, even when no one else is there. I have a wonderful team in the work garden, in the herb garden. People are just really very reliable, but these three really stuck out to me for the last 3 or 4 months. So I'm really proud to recognize them. And if you see them, please tell them congratulations. Surprise, surprise.
Thanks, Gail.
Sure. Just close it.
Okay, we're going to do a switcheroo and let Jim come on and talk to us about the vegetable garden.
Tonight we're going to talk about the veggie garden. But first, for any non-master gardeners that are on the call, I want to let you know about our demo garden area. We have a number of demo gardens. We have a rose demo garden, a drought-tolerant demo garden, the herb demo garden that you just heard about, and a veggie demo garden. And these are all located at 3151 Southeast Inner Loop, which is about half a mile south of the Valero gas station at 29 and Southeast Inner Loop. It's located in the area where the county maintenance facility, or road and bridge, which is the complex with the green metal roof. So it's the only area anywhere on Southeast Inner Loop with a green metal roof. And if you pull in there, you'll see our demonstration gardens. And these are open to the public. They're there for you to go and look at things. And so anytime you want to go out and look around, it's there. Most of the plants are labeled, so you know what it is you're looking at. So feel free to go out there. If you go out on a Tuesday or Friday morning, there's likely to be master gardeners out there working who are glad to give you a little tour or answer any questions or talk about anything. So just keep in mind that those are out there. I know there was one gardener that used to come out there quite often, and anytime his yard was looking kind of bland, he would go out to the demo gardens and see what looked good, and then he would plant that in his yard. And so after a couple of years, he always had something that looked good in his yard because he would go out to the demo gardens and see what was really popping out there. The other thing is we're starting the hands-on in the garden. Gail referred to that. It is now being coordinated by Laura Green and Jennifer Rosas. This April 24th, the fourth Saturday of this month, we're going to have a hands-on in the veggie garden on raised bed gardening. We'll go over how to construct a raised bed, how to do soil in a raised bed, how to plant in a raised bed, and also some irrigation. And then on Saturday, May 22nd, it'll be the herbs. So that will be a monthly program starting from 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 to 11. And so it should be fun. Fourth Saturday of every month. So let's talk about the veggie garden. The veggie garden has been around for a long time. I know Kate tells us how many years ago she helped her father till up some of the rows when it was beginning, when he was the county agent. However, over the past about 1.5 to 2 years, it has transitioned, where for a long time it was a production garden. We've got 9 65-foot rows, a bunch of raised beds, 10 short rows, a lot going on there. But The problem is our group is sort of small. The regulars that come out are sort of small. We're all in our 60s and 70s. We have quite a collection of aching knees and backs and hips and shoulders. So doing actual full production gardening is just a little out of the question these days. And also the caring place, because of the pandemic, has changed the way that they accept and distribute food, so they're not taking any donations anymore. So beginning about a year and a half ago, we became more focused on vegetables and flower trials, experimenting with different gardening methods and techniques, and also kind of keeping the workload a little bit more in keeping with our ages and physical abilities. When we go out, we want to have fun. We don't want to go out and have to work so hard that you have to take 2 days off to rest up. So what have we been growing? Well, still quite a bit. Not as much as we once did, but enough to share with everybody who shows up to the gardens on Tuesdays and Fridays. We've had a number of trials. Some of these are, let me get my pointer going here. Some of these were trials. Some of them we just planted just to experiment with. And we'll talk about some of these. So we've had quite a few going here. This is our lettuce trial. We had two 65-foot rows of lettuce and spinach that Dale Hill coordinated. It was quite a production. We had a lot of fun doing it. The problem was we had to have this fencing up on each side in order to keep the varmints out of it, which meant that we had trouble getting into it too. So dealing with the row covers, we have a low tunnel that's on top of this to keep it from freezing. Was a challenge, but it was fun. We had a lot of fun. We had plenty of lettuce and spinach, and we had a good lettuce lunch and learn following that. Strawberry trials that started in October of 2019. Of course, strawberries go for quite a long time. You remember Rick Holly's presentation a couple of months ago, interrupted by the COVID, unfortunately. But that came around pretty good. That was followed by our onion trials. We trialed red onions. Again, Dale Hill coordinated that one. And these are all sweet onions, which when we harvested, you've got to dry onions. So that job went to Judy. So we had hundreds of onions in our garage for a while as we dried these things. She had quite a good time, kept her out of trouble. So what do we do if we're not planting all these rows? What do we do with all these rows? We don't want to leave them fallow just so that weeds can grow. The last thing we want to do is just sit around and pull weeds. So we started investigating cover crops. And one of the cover crops, one thing that is used as cover crops, is southern peas in the summer. So we decided to plant about 3 65-foot rows of southern peas. And Judy Williams coordinated this study. And we got quite a lot. The winner for the second year in a row was the zipper peas. So if anybody wants to do peas, remember the zipper peas. Just for fun, we did some watermelon, and it was tasty. It came out very well. We may have gotten about 10 or 12 of them, small watermelons off of that. these are the cover crops, and I'm going to give a presentation on cover crops this fall, so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. We've got sorghum Sudan grass here. We got pearl millet here. We've got our peas through here. We've got sun hemp here. And basically, there's a lot of information about how to grow these things out in the fields for regenerative farming, but there is almost no literature about how to do it in row gardens. And so we're just grew this stuff to figure out what it does when it grows in a row garden. Ideally, you would sort of mix this up. You wouldn't grow one thing in a row. You would mix it up, have some legumes, have some grasses, all mixed in together. But since we didn't know how these were going to behave, we separated them out. We planted a lot of buckwheat. Buckwheat's good for the soil. These little white flowers are very attractive to the tiny beneficial and parasitic wasp and flies. So you can just sit there and you can pull up a stool and sit there and watch a flower. And after a few minutes, you will see all these tiny, tiny flies and wasps that the adults like to feed on the nectar and then go lay their larvae where it will eat up all the pests. And nothing grows under all of this stuff. No weeds, no nothing. Here's some sorghum Sudan grass, and here's our sun hemp again, and here's our pearl millet, and the southern peas, and some more sorghum Sudan grass. And again, we'll have a longer presentation. Here I am doing a little maintenance work on some Elbon rye, getting that cut down. And what we do is when we cut all this stuff down, we leave it in place and it basically becomes mulch because it's pulling nutrients from very deep in the soil. All of these plants have very, very deep roots. Some alfalfa roots can go down 8 feet. Some of these sorghum can go down 4 and 5 feet. So we leave all that in place and just cut it down. It pulls all the nutrients out of the deep layers of the soil, and then by leaving it on the top, those nutrients return to the top, and it works as a mulch. However, with the sorghum Sudan grass, this stuff was like tree trunks, so I had to rent a chainsaw to cut it down. So it can be fun. And of course, hauling it all off is a lot of fun too. I've always said, give Carol Buckner a wheelchair, and she knows what to do with it. So another trial we did was parsnips. Dale Hill grew up in the Finger Lakes region of New York State and was always loved the sweet, sweet parsnips he would get during the cooler months. And noticed that down here in Texas, we just don't get sweet parsnips like he was used to. And so the question is, can we grow parsnips in Texas? So here's Judy Williams and Dale planting the seeds. And yes, we can grow parsnips in Texas. Here they are. And coming up, they got bigger. The snow took out some of them, but most of them did okay. And here's one. And then our final harvest day, this is what we got. Quite a few parsnips. And so they were pretty good. Tastes like a sweet carrot. So yes, parsnips can grow in Texas. Fortunately, we had some nice cool winter days that helped get the sweetness going, but it was good. Judy Williams is starting a French marigold trial. French marigolds are very popular for companion planting. They attract a lot of beneficial insects, can get mites off of your plants as they go to the marigolds. So is there any difference in some of the different varieties of marigolds in Central Texas? Do some last longer? Do some bloom longer? We just don't know. So she selected 3 or 4 different types of marigolds, and we planted them, and we will see which ones do better through our wonderful heat. And if you want to go out and visit, she'll give you a cold beer. However, what we did discover was pill bugs love young, tender marigolds. So we had a bit of problem with pill bugs at first. However, they also love cold beer. So so much for those pill bugs. So we're keeping them filled up with that. Some other things is Sonia Schutze is starting a trial with ginger and turmeric. Needs a little shade for that, so we rigged up this little shade cloth. We also have a red potato trial, which we'll talk about in a second. This is some Elbon rye we just cut down, and here we're planting through the millet mulch. And so this is the whole thing that we're doing with this cover crop is we cut the cover crop down, leave it in place, and then go back through and plant straight through it and see what happens. We don't know what's going to happen. This is the first time we did it. So here's our turmeric and our ginger. Here's our potatoes when we first put them in. This was the bed where we had the cover crop of sun hemp. So we cut it down, laid it down, spread it out, put the potatoes in, put the sun hemp back on top as mulch, and there are the potatoes coming up. And they're pretty big now. And then over here, we planted some eggplant and peppers and through the millet mulch. And you would not believe how fine and soft this soil is. If you take your hand and straighten your fingers and palm and just like a spade, stick your fingers straight down into that soil, you'll get down almost to your palm. It is so soft and beautiful soil. So these cover crops really, really help improve the soil. I don't have a slide of it, but we're also, Dale Hill and Judy Eba are going to be doing a squash vine border trial. So in 4 different places of the garden, they're planting squash and are going to do preventative treatment, 4 different preventative treatments on the squash to see which one seems to work better for the squash vine borers. So that should really be interesting. The keyhole garden is still there and producing well. We had a good crop of carrots come out of it. Judy Williams has been busy planting and preparing it. Right now it's home for some onions and marigolds and alyssum. We always like to have alyssum in the garden because it really attracts the beneficial insects. And so those are going well. The backyard garden. This is a sort of a new concept, a new addition. With the stay-at-home orders, there was a huge increase in the interest in gardening throughout the nation. So Judy Eba and Sonia Schutze came up with the idea of, well, why don't we do a garden that is more representative of a home garden and do videos and post short videos to Facebook and on the website showing different ways of how to plant a backyard garden. So we took our 4 trial beds and converted it to the backyard garden. And so they're 4 30-foot beds, which is all experimental. And so it's a combo garden of veggies, herbs, and flower combinations with lots of interplantings. And it has gone really well. Here are some of the veggies and herbs that have been planted and come out. and those have done quite well. Here's some of them here. We got a zinnia bed going here, lots of different flowers here. As you notice, the sun hemp back here, by the way, the cover crop of sun hemp has nice, beautiful yellow flowers that come out in late fall. We have some brassicas and various things growing. So that has gone well. Here's another backyard garden. Here's Sonia tending her zinnias. More flowers. Here's all the flowers that have been grown in the backyard garden, all interplanted with the others. And one thing that we noticed is that for the past year and a half, we have really not had many problems at all with pests. A few cucumber beetles and occasional leaf-footed bug. Your usual brassica pests with, a few loopers and, some aphids here or there, but it just hasn't been a bad problem. And if you go through and do a survey of the bugs in the garden, 80–90% of what you see are beneficial insects. You see the lacewings and the ladybugs, and lots of the little parasitic flies and wasps, the assassin bugs. So we're seeing a lot, and I can't help but think that all of these flowers interplanted with the vegetables are really creating a habitat for the beneficial insects to help us out with the pests. So I think that it's become a real good thing. Coming up pretty soon, they're going to be planting some watermelon and muskmelon and summer squash and tomatillos, okra, sweet potatoes, eggplant. So it'll be interesting to see what we come. And this was Tuesday. So it did get hit pretty hard by the freeze. Lost quite a bit, but Sonia and Judy are really out there putting in the seeds. And a lot of this stuff is grown from seeds, so we're doing they're doing a really good job with that. Some other things we've been doing in the garden is planting techniques. We had these are the strawberries, and so in the lettuces, you can see where the lettuce has gone in. This was, and we started thinking, well, we're doing all these trials, and one freeze can wipe us out completely, all that work. So we had to come up with some way to manage that. And from previous years, if you've ever had the pleasure of being out trying to cover a 65-foot row with something to keep it from freezing, with all the winds we have out there, it is a nightmare, even if you got 5 or 6 people doing it. So with a small crew, we had to figure out a way to manage this so that we can protect all the trials that we're now doing. And so we went through the internet and YouTube and all kinds of stuff, and we came up with how to construct caterpillar low tunnels. And so we bend 10 feet of tubing, metal tubing, and all this stuff can be used for years and years and years. We tie that together. Here's it is over the lettuce, and we cover it with plastic. And we have these ropes that go from one side to the other that create a tension between that metal tubing that's under there and the rope. And so you can easily just lift the sides up. And one person could go out there with these 2 tunnels and raise the sides up in about 10 minutes. And one person could go out there and in 10 minutes, 10 or 15 minutes, pull it all down if a freeze is coming up. And it worked really, really well. We were real happy with it. And so, and fortunately, it's all stuff that can be used from year to year to year. So we're we're going to keep using them. And here you can see how you can lift them up and do all the work you need. Also, doing weeds. I think we got somebody vacuuming close you may be hearing. We're going to go shut the door. One of the problems with volunteering at the veggie garden historically has been all the weeding that has had to be done. And we learned that, how do I get that off? I don't know if y'all all can see that. I can't get it off. We learned that most of those weeds come in from the edges of the garden. And so we had to figure out a way that we could keep that from happening. So what we did was put landscaping fabric down on the edge of every bed and then covered it with mulch. And my computer won't move for some reason. There we go. And so we have those at the ends of every row, and same thing on the other side. Most of them we have covered in mulch, and now the weeds do not encroach. So it has really saved us a lot of time, and now people can show up to come to the veggie garden, and they don't have to sit there and weed all the whole time. You know, yeah, there's a few renegade weeds that get in there here and there, but that doesn't take much time to take care of. So we've pretty much solved the weeding problem. The other thing is we've experimented with trellises, and one of the things we came up with is this little portable trellis. Again, came up with this by cruising around on YouTube. And so what this is a 7-foot T-post driven into the ground in here and here. And remember those big pipes that you stick on top and drive these T-posts in the ground? For all you who remember my hernia surgery, that's how I got my hernia. Anyway, on top of that T-post, we put a 1 1/4 inch PVC T and then run the 10 foot of metal EMT tubing through that and connect them with some connectors, and you have an instant trellis. And you can, here it is here with our post, and you can cover it with just a regular trellis material. We were going to fashion cattle panels that would hook over it and then have prongs that would stick into the ground. Maybe next year that we cut that out for budget reasons this year. But one of the things we're going to do is just put this up without any of this webbing in here, without any of the netting, and just grow flowers. You know, I think Sonia's going to do a cardinal vine so that you just grow flowers here, and then they'll go across, and you just have a nice little picture frame of flowering plants. And we're also going to put one down here on this row, which we took all the sorghum out of, and we're going to try pole beans on it and just see how that works. So that's some of the things that we will be working on. And so, like everything else, all the other gardens, we mostly meet on Tuesdays and Friday mornings, typically from 9 to 12. As it gets warmer, we start getting there about 8 and knocking off by 11. When it gets hot, we tend to start showing up at 7 and knocking off about 10 because we really don't like the heat that much. And so, again, everybody is welcome to come out. we have a good time. You're not going to have to sit there and weed the whole time. And that's about it. Any questions?
Thanks, Jim. That was really great. Very informative. Any questions? Feel free to unmute your microphone and ask, or you can put them in the chat. Nope. Okay.
What question?
Oh, go ahead.
This is Arlene. I'll ask. How soon before you think things are grown back enough so that we could make this a local field for fairly young children? Just a few with a family.
You're breaking up a little bit, but I think you're asking about
sorry.
when things are grown back enough for a field trip. And
Yes.
I think there's enough out there now that you would find plenty to look at. We've actually had visitors in the garden over the last few weeks. A couple weeks ago, we had a mom and her 2 kiddos there for a homeschool adventure.
Okay.
So there would be plenty, and we've the ladies, I know, well, not just ladies, everybody's worked really hard to put signs up explaining what's going on in the various rows. And then I know we do have a couple of groups who schedule tours in May, so just have at it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This is Jennifer Harbor. I don't have a question, but I just want to say whoever thought of that end row thing for the weeds was a genius. I love that.
Mhm.
Works good.
Was that the herb garden?
Okay, well, no, I don't hear any more questions or don't see any, so thanks to both Jim and Gail for presenting tonight. You can see Judy in the background there too. Glad everybody was able to get on. Sorry for the technical difficulties at the beginning, but this was recorded and we'll get it posted to the website soon. Which, speaking of, be sure to check out our YouTube channel because we've got all of our monthly meetings there. We've got the green thumbs up videos that have been posted monthly since February. I think we started with rose pruning, so be sure to check those out. And also come out for Hands-On in the Garden at the end of the month, April 24th. That'll be Saturday at 10. Should be a great program. We're looking forward to getting to have something in person. So with that, I think we'll close for the night. Thanks for hopping on tonight.
How bad was it?
No,
It was good.
no.
I sure stumbled.